So what kind of car did the disciples drive? An Accord, because they were all in one accord. Honda Accord.
And the Triumph was heard throughout the land. That's a motorcycle.
The Triumph. Well, I don't. Yeah, that's a motorcycle. Now. That had absolutely nothing to do with the study, by the way.
Oh, but it was fun.
Something for you to keep with you. Yeah. So Exodus chapter 25, a lot of study will be spent, a lot of time is going to be spent on this last section, and actually even into Leviticus and Numbers as we continue through our study of the Old Testament. It got me thinking about just how important and how valuable monuments are. We look and we think of the Washington Monument or any kind of big monument, even the Egyptian pyramids. Those are not technically monuments, but they're there in place, and it's a monument that everyone from all around knows about and goes to. And what we're getting into, Exodus chapter 25, is probably the least known, and unfortunately by Christians of all people, the least known monument. And I'm referring to the tent of meeting, the Tabernacle. And that's what we're getting into here. And the Tabernacle is going to teach us more about Jesus. If you think you have Jesus all figured out, buckle up. There's a lot that we still need to learn, and the tabernacle is a great big shadow or picture, not only of Jesus Christ, but of the heavenly scene. How many of you want to go to heaven? A few liars in here. I should have asked, how many of you want to go to hell? Okay, that didn't get quite as many out there. Not just going to heaven, learning about heaven. This is the most underrated. People tune out. Even when you're reading it, just doing a study on your own, going through it, the flesh wants to just tune out. As soon as you get to that word cubit, you go, oh, you lost me. I'm done. And describing all of the different measurements, all of the different things, you kind of tune out. But when we understand that it's actually describing something that's heavenly, it's not of this earth, it should become even more fascinating to us. So Moses continued, remember, speaking with the Lord up on the mount in chapter 25, verse 1, after the fire, remember, at the end there, God, the consuming fire, came. Actually, I had a side note before we get started in. As God as a fire. I love, and I found this in my old notes, but God as a consuming fire, because that was from verse 17 of chapter 24 last week. In the old King James, it has God a devouring fire. And I like that because the wicked, when it comes into the presence of God, they are devoured, destroyed in the presence of God. But the righteous flourish and actually become even more beautiful. The same fire will do for gold, make it more precious, more valuable, cleaner, purified. But with that same fire, what it does to stubble or wicked, it ignites, it devours and consumes. And so God is the same God for the righteous and for the wicked. It's up to you. What do you want to be in? Which camp do you want to be in? See, the world around us, the world we live in, the culture, always wants there to be, a gray area. I'm not righteous or wicked. That's good, but not true. Because there's none that is righteous. Many will disagree with you on that. The thing that you really can't disagree with anyone on is when you realize we are all wicked. Every single one of us are wicked. From my little 1-year-old Micah all the way up to Grandpa. We are all wicked. We're all wicked. None are righteous, and that same fire will destroy the one or the other. And here we get a glimpse into how to be righteous. How to be righteous. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, verse 2 of chapter 25, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring me an offering of every man that giveth it willingly with his heart. Ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering which ye shall take of them: gold, silver, and bronze or brass, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, ram skins dyed red, badger skins, and shittim wood, also known as acacia wood. There's going to be significance in every single one of these. Verse 6, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set in the ephod and in the breastplate. More on that in the next coming years. The ephod and the breastplate, a lot in there. Verse 8, and let them be a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show thee. Everything I'm going to show you, Moses, make it, here's the title of our message, after the pattern. Make everything I show you after the pattern of the tabernacle, and the pattern of all the instruments or furnishings thereof. Even so shall ye make it. And they shall make an ark. We'll get into the ark here, but let's stop for a minute and go over just this opening scene here of what the tabernacle is going to consist of. Every little thing in here, every facet, every little bit of the tabernacle is significant. Don't just read through it. You'll fall asleep if you just continue reading. Listen. The tabernacle becomes so significant, and it's so important that Moses makes it after the pattern that God had. Why? Why is that so significant? You have to go to Hebrews chapter 8, verse 5. You don't have to, but jot it down, put a thumb there. Hebrews chapter 8. In fact, the book of Hebrews will become a very important companion, especially as we continue to go through, not only finishing up and getting into Leviticus, but going into Numbers. All of the tabernacle, the priest ministries, everything here. Hebrews becomes a great commentary. The best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. And that's Hebrews chapter 8, verse 5. These things serve unto the example and shadow of heavenly things, as Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacle. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern showed to thee in the mount. Don't skip a thing. Make sure you do this exactly how I'm going to show you, Moses. How important it is that we do what the Lord asks of us. And especially this scene. We talked about how the picture was kind of distorted when Moses struck the rock rather than talked to the rock or spoke to the rock and water came out. Moses misrepresented God and could not enter into the promised land because he made God out to be ticked off. A humanly father and not a heavenly father that really just gets disappointed. that really just gets grieved. You know, he wasn't angry with the people like Moses made him out to be. In the same way, do this according to the pattern, Moses. Make it exactly like it. Where would these people get this stuff? Earlier, remember when they left Egypt, the Egyptians gave to them all these gifts, and no doubt the offerings that are being brought to the people here, by the people rather, the offerings that are being brought to Moses and to Aaron and to the leadership there. This was what they had from the Egyptians: gold, silver, all these incredible, purple and blue, scarlet, fine linens. There were plenty of goats, plenty of rams. But notice verse 2. Moses, make sure that you put up a thermometer in the sanctuary and tell the people how much money we need to raise. No, it doesn't say that, does it? Rather, he's really instructing Moses, do not coerce the people. Do not give them a reason, some kind of bonus if they give. No, rather, every man that gives it willingly with his heart, he shall give it. And that's the way that the offering is to be taken, is to be received. Offerings, in order for an offering to be acceptable by God, this is so that God would accept it. It is necessary that the offering be offered by a willing giver. And that speaks of a heart attitude. Because you can look really willing. You can come and look like this ain't nothing, but it's all that I've got, But only God sees the heart. And that's why verse 2 says, his heart. With his heart. Only God's going to know that. And again, it's not about the amount that's given to the Lord. It's about the heart behind it. It can be a $1 bill, and it's just as important as $1 million check in God's economy. Money is just money. It's neutral. Money is neither good nor evil. The only time it becomes evil is when the lust and love and the cravings for that money grow, and greed. And we're all susceptible. Every one of us. It's easy to say, oh, I don't love money. The reason I wake up on Monday morning, it's not just for money, to go make money. I'll quote Pastor Chuck that would ask you, what is your master passion? What is it that drives you, that gets you out of bed, that gets you on a rainy day to jump in your car and go however many miles away? What drives you? What is your master passion? That's why it's so neat when it's pouring rain and you guys show up to fellowship. It really is. It's so incredible. We don't even experience the snow and the blizzards, the things that other people in other states and other countries deal with. We're spoiled rotten out here in Northern California. We really are. It's too hot right now. Really, it's just incredible the opportunities we have. And again, what is it that you just go to sleep thinking about, wake up in the morning thinking about, it's on your mind? I got to check that bank account. I got to make sure that I've got enough in there for the bills to be paid. And you're checking it more than you would your devotional, more than you would the Word of God, which is more important, by the way. So giving to the Lord willingly, and it should never be grudgingly. Our offering to the Lord, when giving to God, it should never be grudgingly or under pressure. This is why I hate those commercials, and you all know what I'm talking about, where I'm going. You see the little three-legged dog with one eye missing. And we need your help. These dogs are dying in abusive homes. And the saddest thing in the world is that Christians are the most gullible to fall into those things that come on. There should never be any kind of guilt trip in you giving your money to any organization, especially when it comes to the Lord. You should never look at someone, feel sorry for them, and that's what drives you to give your money. Because in most cases, the last thing they need is the money. They could be that much closer to hitting rock bottom and getting where they need to be with the Lord. So it should never be under pressure or constraint. Another reason we don't give, another way that we should not bring our offering to the Lord, is not giving so that I get. We call that selfish motives. Well, Lord, I gave you $500. I expect to get back $5,000. Whatever logic or math you might be trying to use there, it's just not right. We never want to give for the sake of returning, or selfish motives, not just in the Lord owes me something, or the Lord's I gave to you, so then, but also for the recognition and praise from men, from those around us. Why have you given? Is it so that people go, wow, what a guy, what a gal, she gave so much? No, we want to hear from the Lord, right? You've been a good and faithful servant. And here's the hard truth. Here's the hard truth. God doesn't need your money. And you're not going to hear that. You're hearing the other side. God needs your money. We're trying to build a church here on the property. We need your money. No, the hard truth that you're not going to hear is God does not need your money. In fact, God doesn't need you. God doesn't need me. What did Jesus tell the Pharisees that day? Before Abraham was, I am. Me and you, we need to say, before Mike was, God is. Before you ever came into existence with your bank account, with your job, with all your stuff, guess what? God is. God has always been, and God will always be. There is no need for us. In fact, and that's why I said earlier, we have an opportunity to be a part of God's kingdom, of the work that goes on. And praise the Lord. Hallelujah. If $1 of my money can go to further the kingdom of God, bring a lost soul into the kingdom. That's what it's all about. It's not about getting a pew with your name on the back of it. It's not about getting a building with your name, etched into the siding. I don't want that to be my reward. Would you? We ought to be after those things that are heavenly. Heavenly. The gold, the silver, the brass. Notice in verse 3. The things that are going to be brought to make this tabernacle. What does gold speak of? Kingship. What is Jesus? The King. What does silver speak of? We're going to see how everything on the tabernacle rests on these silver sockets. What did Judas Iscariot get for selling Jesus out? For betraying Jesus, rather, out.
He got money.
Silver that represented blood. See, every one of these gold and metals, they're precious and they're symbolic. The gold speaks of Jesus and his kingship. The silver, we're going to see how everything in the tabernacle rests on the blood. It's representative of the blood. The bronze or the brass speaks of judgment. how he is the righteous judge, and how all the judgment of God was poured and put on Jesus Christ. Just in these opening things here. The blue, the purple, the fine linen. How Jesus makes it so that, it's easy. It's breezy. Fine linen. It's not something we work up. And the priests are there's more on that linen. And you all know purple and scarlet again, royalty and blood. Speaking of those things. But then you get to these interesting goats and rams. How many of you know what God provided that day? Genesis 22 is what I'm referring to. Abraham brings his only son, Isaac, up onto that mount to offer his son. And what's caught in the thicket? A ram. And he said, God will provide himself. Not God will provide for himself. God will provide himself to be the ram. To be the goat. The scapegoat. We're going to see a lot on the goat when we get into Leviticus as well. All of these, like I said, you can spend decades really just scratching the surface of what the significance of the tabernacle. So, those incredible pictures. Also, it mentioned badger's skins. That's a poor translation. It should be porpoise skins, or they would be even dolphin skins, something that would be waterproof. And that will become actually pretty significant. The dolphin skins, or seal skins is another translation puts it, but most likely some kind of porpoise skins. They speak of protection. How Jesus is our protection. They made the shoes that they went through the wilderness in out of porpoise skins. God made it so those shoes did not wear out. So every little thing becomes so significant. Even something as we would think there can be a significance in shoes. You bet. The Holy Spirit has written all these stuff down, and it's so significant for us. Every piece of furniture that we're going to get into here. With the first one being the ark. Verse 10. The ark of the testimony, or the ark of the covenant, as it's more widely known. And they shall make an ark of shittim wood. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length. And a cubit and a half the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. A cubit equals about 18 inches. And you will overlay it with pure gold, within and without. Shalt thou overlay it, and shalt make upon it a crown, or a molding of gold around about. And thou shalt cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in the 4 corners thereof, and 2 rings shall be in the one side of it, and 2 rings in the other side of it. And thou shalt make staves of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And thou shalt put the staves into the rings by the sides of the ark, that the ark may be borne with them. You're not, and we're going to learn later, you're not to put this ark on wheels and cart it around. It should always be borne, or you're always to bear it with these staves, these poles that would be going through the rings. Verse 15, the staves shall be in the rings of the ark, they shall not be taken from it. And thou shalt put into the ark the testimony which I shall give thee. And another piece to the ark. It's considered separate, but it's part of it. Verse 17, you will make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, and a cubit and a half the breadth thereof. And thou shalt make 2 cherubims of gold. Of beaten work shalt thou make it. In the 2 ends of the mercy seat, the one cherub on the one side, and the other cherub on the other end. Even of the mercy seat shalt ye make the cherubim on the 2 ends thereof. And the cherubim shall stretch forth their wings on high, over covering the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces shall look one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall the faces of the cherubim be. Verse 21, and thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark, and in the ark thou shalt put the testimony that I shall give thee, and there I will meet with thee. I have that underlined in my Bible. Verse 22, there God says, I will meet with thee, and I will commune with thee from above the mercy seat, from between the two cherubim which are upon the ark of the testimony of all things which I will give thee in commandment unto the children of Israel. So there you have the first piece of furniture. We're going to look at two more. Hang on tight. But this first piece of furniture is an important one. It's the Ark of the Testimony. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 4. If you want to cheat, you can write Hebrews 9:4, and you can answer the question, what is inside of the Ark of the Covenant? It lets you know right in Hebrews 9:4. So, but I'll give it away anyways. There is the 2 tablets of stone that would make up the 10 commandments. That's what's inside of it. And there is a golden jar of manna, a golden pot of manna, which again, all 3 of these really represent man's failure. That's what these 3 things. Aaron's budding rod is the 3rd thing that we know is in there. Those are the 3 items that any good student of the Bible knows. That's what's inside, what will be put inside of the Ark of the Covenant. But this thing was really incredible. Just a thing of beauty and of the gold and the angels. These cherubim really don't think of chubby little babies with diapers on with wings. No, cherubs are, if anything, just incredibly out of this world. Like nothing like man can represent. All we really know about these cherubim, and the cherub, according to Scripture, were the most mighty of the angels. There were seraphim, and the I am is just a pluralization. So there's a cherub was just a single one, and cherubim is more than one. And so you had seraphim and cherubim, and these cherubs would be the mighty ones, really made for battle. They're always found in Scripture ready to do something violent, horribly violent. Not a Valentine's card with a little baby with a diaper on and wings and hearts all around it. Like many of our children are learning, that's what an angel looks like. There's never anything feminine about angels in Scripture. Every angel you see depicted seems to be depicted as a woman or has feminine characteristics about it. That's not scriptural. You will be hated if you are scriptural. People don't like it. You're considered mean or heartless, whatever. But really, it's important for us to get the picture of these cherubim. They are on the lid of this incredible box that God would have them put into the tabernacle rather. And next comes the table. The table. Thou shalt make, verse 23, a table of shittim wood. 2 cubits shall be the length thereof, and a cubit and a half, or a cubit the breadth thereof, and a cubit and a half the height thereof. And thou shalt overlay it with pure gold, and make thereto a crown of gold round about it, or a molding of gold round about it. And thou shalt make unto it a border of a handbreadth, about 3 inches is what a handbreadth is, round about. And thou shalt make a golden crown to the border thereof round about. And thou shalt make for it 4 rings of gold, and put the rings in the 4 corners that are on the 4 feet thereof. Over against the border shall the rings be for the places of the staves or the poles to bear the table, just as they were going to bear the ark, to do the same thing with the table. And thou shalt make the staves out of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, that the table may be borne with them. And thou shalt make the dishes, the spoons, the covers, the bowls, to cover withal, out of pure gold shalt thou make them. And thou shalt set upon the table showbread. How many of you know how many pieces? 12. 12 pieces of showbread will be always before me. They will be set before me always. And then we get, verse 31, the lampstand, the final piece of furniture here in the tabernacle. Thou shalt make a candlestick or a lampstand of pure gold, of beaten work, shall the candlestick be made. His shaft and his branches, his bowls, his knops, and his flowers shall be of the same. And 6 branches shall come out of the sides of it, 3 branches of the candlestick out of the one side, and 3 branches of the candlestick out of the other side. 3 bowls made like unto almonds, with a knot and a flower in one branch, and 3 bowls made like almonds in the other branch, with a knot and a flower. So in the 6 branches that come out of the lampstand. And in the lampstand shall be 4 bowls made like unto almonds, with their ornamental knobs and their flowers. And there shall be an ornamental knob under 2 branches of the same, and a knot under the 2 branches of the same, and a knot under 2 branches of the same. Yep, it said it all 3 times there. According to the 6 branches that proceed out of the candlestick. Their knops and their branches shall be of the same. It shall be one beaten work of pure gold. And thou shalt make the 7 lamps thereof, and they shall light the lamps thereof, that they may give light over against it. And the tongs thereof, and the snuff dishes thereof, shall be of pure gold, of a talent of pure gold. A talent weighs about 70 pounds. Shall he make it. With all these vessels, and look that thou make them after their pattern, which was showed thee in the mount. So, quite an introduction into the tabernacle of meeting, the place where God is wanting and desiring to meet with them. What's interesting is what is being constructed. It's not the tent with the badger skins and the rams. They're getting parts for that. The first thing that God begins to go into is the ark. Now the ark of the covenant is placed in a place in the tabernacle where one person could go in one day a year, and they had to do all of this ceremonial washings and cleansing before even going in. It was the high priest could only go in one day a year. Why in the world would God be making that piece of furniture first? God does something that's much different than mankind. And that is, he starts from the inside, the most central place in the inside, and he's going to work his way out. He does that in you, by the way. He does that in me, by the way. He doesn't change me from the outside in. That's what we like to see. You better start wearing your hair this way. You better start doing this or that, and then you'll get a right standing with God. No, God is not like that. He starts on the inside. In the very presence of God, and works his way out. That's where the presence of God is. We try over and over and over again to penetrate from the outside and make our way in to the presence of God. That's religion. That's legalism. That's something that none of us can live up to. We all break the law of God. Notice where the Lord, verse 22, will meet with them. It's not out in the outer, the outer part. It's not in the, even in the holy place, but it's inside and on the lid of, what is it called? The mercy seat. How do we approach God? How do I come and have any kind of relationship at all with God? It's by mercy. It's mercy. I dare not come saying, I've kept all 10 of these and hold them up. They will shatter because I've shattered them. Ask my mom. I've been disobedient. I've cursed. I've done all kinds of things. Coveting, I think, gets every single one of us. It's the root of all kinds of sins. So God desired and is desiring still to meet with men, with women, with children, with people everywhere. But we're too busy trying to keep rules and putting on top of what God has plainly put in His Word. It's about Jesus. It's about Jesus. We see that over and over, even in the tabernacle. This thing, to be frank, to look at, was very unattractive. Kind of like we thought about naming it Calvary Chapel Tabernacle during this time. You drive by this place and it's a little unattractive. What is that, a homeless encampment? You know, what's going on over there? It's, in fact, Isaiah chapter 53, verse 2, describes Jesus as the tabernacle, I think, the best. And y'all know the verse, or you should. Isaiah chapter 53, right around verse 2. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see Jesus, when we see Him, Isaiah 53:2, there is no beauty that we should desire Him. Sound like the tabernacle? You see, people have the wrong idea about what Jesus was like. They think He was tall, blonde, blue eyes, flowing hair. You'll know Him because he's the most macho of all the guys there. No, in fact, Jesus was so common that Judas had to identify Him with a kiss, right? Even the guards showing up to arrest Jesus, to take Him to be crucified, to be put on trial. Judas didn't have any way to identify Him. He's the guy with, the best looking of all of us. No, He was the most common of all, and the same way with the tabernacle. Very unattractive on the outside. And you start to see, that would look a little weird with seal skins and dolphin skins over everything. That's what everyone sees. In fact, the first thing you will see, we're going to get into, is a white fence that bordered the whole thing. And that speaks of righteousness. That's all you see, is purity, righteousness. And it will deter any human. I don't want to go there. Kind of like the tent here. I saw a little similarity there. Maybe I'm the only one. But there is no beauty that we should, desire to come to Him. In the same way, there was nothing special. He didn't have a halo. There was no, glow about Jesus, despite what the movies and the books and all the things that portray him to be, the tabernacle speaks about Jesus at his first coming, where they spit on him, where they rejected him, they crucified him. But there will be something built that we're going to get into later on. It's called the temple. That speaks of Jesus at his second coming. When you contrast the tabernacle and the temple, it's pretty interesting. The tabernacle was erected by a prophet. The temple was erected by a king. Jesus came first as a prophet, but he's coming again as a king, isn't he? The tabernacle was temporary, and the temple was meant to be permanent. And it was a lot more permanent than the tabernacle was. In fact, the tabernacle was used with the children of Israel in the wilderness there for all we know is it was under 35 years. And it'd be interesting to find out that it was used for 33 years. That's about how old Jesus was when he died, right? All these similarities that you get into, it's fascinating when you start to see the tabernacle and putting it up next to the temple, but also, and really the most important thing, is that the tabernacle is a beautiful picture of Jesus Christ. No beauty that we should desire him, but you get inside and there's pure gold. There's incredible ornaments and royal things, luscious, just incredible. The things that were contained inside, and even that was just a shadow, a glimpse of heavenly things. It's there that we desire to meet with him. I think it's interesting also describing the Ark of the Testimony. When I was reading through this, God has a sense of humor. We just got a shed that we're putting together. And this ark weighed, most likely, just the ark with the lid, weighed probably around 700 to 900 pounds. We had that shed delivered here from my father-in-law. He brought it over on a truck. They had to load it onto the truck with a forklift, and he gets here and goes, "How are we going to get this off of here?" It weighed about 800 pounds. That shed that we're trying to put together. And you open it up, so the only way we could get it off his truck was open the box and pull all the parts out of it. And then I read about the tabernacle. All these parts, all this stuff. And see the wood, this acacia wood, it speaks of Jesus in his humanity. And yesterday, as we're putting this thing, laying it out, Luke is over there with a hammer. I'm there with a hammer, nailing, pounding into the wood. And I couldn't help after that day, after the day we had, but seeing Jesus there as the wood, speaking of his humility, his humanity, how that we pounded those nails into him. Our sin did that to him. And all of the incredible things. In fact, acacia, which is the shittim wood, it's an acacia branch. It's the wood in the desert that produces thorns. And it's interesting, only the Old King James says this. Your newer translations water this down by putting molding in there. It is a crown. And Jesus at his first coming had a crown placed on him. And that crown was a crown of thorns. There's a second crown. When you're reading through the tabernacle, it speaks of, and it says molding in the newer translation, but it's another crown. And that crown is going to be his royal crown of gold, of glory, of honor. And so there's two crowns that are mentioned concerning the tabernacle. And it's, again, it's just exciting to see how the Lord, all of this was in detail written by the Holy Spirit. It's incredible. Another thing to take into consideration, everything we just read about was precious. There was not leftovers brought to God. We don't really have any use for this anymore, so I'm going to just bring it down here to the church. That's the main thing that happens at many churches. No, in fact, placing a value on the tabernacle, it is above $20 million. In fact, it's probably much more than that today. So we need to raise $20 million in order to build and make the new sanctuary out of all these dimensions, right? Anybody writing this down, make a blueprint for us. But we'll see as we continue on, as we kind of continue our study through, how there is the outer court, there's the holy place, and then there's the brazen altar where all of the sacrifices were done. There's this altar of incense that we'll get into. There's all of these different instruments and different furnishings, different parts that go in, really showing us more about Jesus. And it's exciting because it got me thinking. There used to be a church called Christ Tabernacle. And that was like saying the same thing twice. When you start to study, it's like Christ. The tabernacle is Jesus Christ. It really is. The dwelling place of God. And when you get into the lampstand, there's a lot there as well. The table of showbread. Of course, Jesus said, "I am the bread that came down from heaven." And then the 12 also acknowledging the 12 tribes. Jesus would choose 12 men. So the bread, the showbread being there. All of the gold spoons and bowls and things we're going to learn from Leviticus 24, chapter 24, lets you in on, they're going to use those bowls and things to make bread. There. Leviticus 24, chapter 24. We'll be there in a couple of years. Maybe. But then you get to the candlestick is kind of a poor translation because they didn't use wax candles, but a better translation is lampstand. It's an unfortunate translation. The lampstand was fueled by oil. That's significant. That's important. Why? Because not only is Jesus Christ dwelling in you, but how is Jesus Christ dwelling in you? By the Holy Spirit. The significance of the oil in the Old Testament especially, and as we move on, the oil is the Spirit of God that causes you and I to illuminate, to be, Jesus said, not only I am the light of the world, but he said, didn't he, you are the light of the world. He says, shine bright like a lampstand, not like a diamond. Shine bright. Give me oil for my lamp. Keep me burning, burning, burning. It's really true. All of these significance. And there is a 7 menorah. That's another translation. Actually, the word candlestick in the Hebrew is literally translated menorah. And there are 7 menorah. There's the menorah that has 7 on it. There's a menorah that has 8 on it. And there's a menorah that has 9 on it. Just so you know. They all have significance. They all have meaning. One of them is scriptural, and that's the 7. The 9 only has to do with Hanukkah and the commemoration of the Maccabean Revolt, which took place, There's plenty you can read, but it was all during the silent years between the book of Malachi and the book of Matthew. They have the Maccabean Revolt, where those 8 nights that their lamps stayed lit. Why is there 9 then? Because they had a lamp, a candle that they just called the attendant. That was just the middle one with 4 on each side, and so they used that middle one to light all the 4 ones. So there's your history lesson for today about Hanukkah. You say, great, I'll never use that bit of information, but okay. The important thing is, 6 is the number of who? Man. Are you a man? A woman? 6 signifies you. 7 is completion. God is that 7th. I like it. I like the scriptural menorah, where there's 7. Because He's there in the middle. He is the vine. We are the 3 on the side, the branches. And He comes and lights us up and makes us the light of the world, doesn't He? So it's really awesome. All of the incredible significance. We're just scratching the surface, like I said. I got into an argument one time with someone about the Star of David. Because you see Israel, everyone thinks of Israel as the Star of David. And it's true, you have their national emblem, but they have a religious emblem as well. I might have had that backwards. The religious emblem, I think, is the Star of David. Their national emblem is the menorah. They have a flag with the menorah on it. And you can't argue with that. That goes back to its roots. Pretty incredible, but 700 pounds. How would you like to be the guys in the wilderness that had that job? That's another thing to keep in mind about this tabernacle. It was portable. All of this was portable, and we'll see there's silver sockets that everything gets put in place. I mean, we're putting together this little shed, and once it's up, it's there, permanent. We're never doing this again. Amen?
Amen.
Kind of like this tent. Once it was up, man, screw everything down, fasten it all down. A lot goes into that. And they did. They had people willing to take this thing down. Oh, the cloud's moving. Let's go. A lot goes into it. But keep that in mind. Precious. Precious. What did David say? Everything in that tabernacle was precious. Just like the time that you give to the Lord should be precious time. Your energy should be precious energy. Not like the energy you give at your work. When you come to the congregation, you come into the ministry, it's your best. It's your all. It's not leftovers. It's precious. David, King David, in 2 Samuel 24:24. Jot that down or just remember it because it's easy to remember. 2 Samuel 24:24. I will not give to the Lord that which costs me nothing. What does that speak of? I'm not just going to go to church when it's convenient. I'm not just going to lift my hands when I like the song. I'm not just going to sing out to the Lord when I feel like it. I refuse to give to the Lord that which costs me nothing. In other words, my worship, our worship should never be for sale. Where people can come and kind of rip you off. Hey, I'll pay you not double, but triple if you come in to work Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Sorry, my worship is not for sale. I refuse to give unto the Lord that which costs me nothing. We should bring gold, silver, brass, purple, scarlet, all of these incredible, precious things to the Lord. Physically, no. We probably don't have that stuff physically. But spiritually speaking, not just kind of putting in your time. Not just coming and, like I say, when it's convenient. but truly, truly giving to the Lord your all, your best. I love it. Father, we thank you for your word. How incredible, all of the significance, all of the lessons, Lord. Again, there's so much in here as we get into the tabernacle. Father, we desire to be that sanctuary, Lord, that you dwell here, that you meet with us here week after week, Lord. We desire just to draw closer every time, Lord. Make us more and more like you. And Lord, help us to challenge one another, to lift one another up, Lord, to be edifying and building up, not tearing down, not gossiping, not backbiting. Lord, keep us from, just separating and from distracting. Keep us from that, Lord. Help us to be in unity with one another as this small fellowship is in your hands. Lord, we ask that you bless it. Lord, give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and hearts that are ready to just receive more of you, less of us, Lord, as we sang earlier. God, you increase that we might decrease, Lord. And just help us, Lord, to continue steadfast through your word, through praying with one another, taking time with one another, Lord. Help us not to just always be in a hurry, but Lord, just to stop, to rest, to know that you are our Sabbath. You are our day to cease and to put things to come to the end of ourselves, Lord, and let you reign and rule. Thank you, God, for all of these incredible lessons. Help us to teach our children well, to bring them up in the admonition of your word, your truth. You're so good and so mighty and so powerful. Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. Praise him, all creatures here below. Praise him above, ye heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Be sure to stick around and pray. Ask for prayer. Come forward for prayer. We've got some bread coming in right now. Real hot out of the oven. Take some bread home for your neighbors or ducks, if you have ducks at home. Chickens, yeah. Need to get a guitar made out of acacia. Of course, it's going to have thorns on it,
How was
probably.
that picking up?
What's that?
I said, how was that to pick up?
I got another box for it.
Turn the
Oh man,